see hide away, yes, hide away, that is half a stretch. More precisely, in the back of Brother Tellis' barber shop, it's in the back.
Was a horrible way to die. We could all agree that if we watch any shows, any movies that depicted the scenario of Jesus being hung on the cross, or even if we just imagine it through reading the Bible, we would think about it as a horrible experience, being there with the nails in your foot and your hand. So even back then, it wasn't that it was normal for the people of that time to see someone um, be hung on the cross and just see that as a normal thing. Even back then, when someone was sentenced to die in that way, it was deemed a terrible thing. In fact, they would have deemed anyone who would have died in that manner, anyone who would have been killed in that manner, to be cursed. But I'm sure that we realize that that symbol of defeat, that old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame, Brother Otis, yet the old rugged cross became a wondrous attraction for all of us, an emblem of Christianity. In fact, Paul simply referred to the gospel as the word of the cross in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 18. So we all realize that even though it was a horrible act for Jesus to be killed in that manner, the meaning behind all of it and what came out of that terrible act was something that was beneficial to all of us in the long run, right? So this week's lesson, we went through all of this. So quick question. Why were the sacrifices needed? Why was sacrifice needed back in that day? Anyone? I don't think I see a mic anywhere in the congregation, but someone just shout it out. Why were the sacrifices necessary? We have, it pointed to the lamb. It pointed to the lamb that would come. Any other answer? Why were sacrifices necessary? Anyone? The cleansing of sin. Thank you very much. Sacrifices were needed at that time for the cleansing of sin. Hebrews 9:15 explains that the death of Christ's sacrifice had the purpose of providing redemption of the transgressions that were committed under the first covenant, in order that the people of God might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. So, just as we would have reviewed from last week in terms of the first covenant, we would have for example, the lesson talked about when God made the covenant with Abraham. The ceremony involved cutting animals in half. The parties would walk between the parts of the animal. So, half, walk to the middle. And with Abraham and God, significantly, only God walked between the animals for the purpose of communicating to Abraham that he would not break his promise. He, being God, would not break God's promise to Abraham. So, the first covenant, the Israelites were granted